Which of the defensive players out there are capable of like being game wreckers? I mean, the kind of like Tyrann Mathieu and Ndamukong Suh, big time defensive names of years past where you had to know where they were every play. I think we got some of them. I think Tennessee's got one in James Pierce, the edge player there. He led the team last year with 9.5 sacks. And I think if we're even close to right about what Tennessee could be offensively this year, they're going to score. Meaning teams are going to have to score to keep up with them. They're going to have to throw to keep up with them. And I just picture in my mind, like they're on the road against Oklahoma. 2 or 3 big moments. James Pierce off the edge, especially if Tennessee develops depth elsewhere on their defensive front where you can't really key on that guy as much as teams probably think they can. That's the kind of guy where you're watching your highlight shows, your recap shows, and Tennessee won, but you don't know how they won that day. And it's all of a sudden, man, like 2 forced fumbles, scoop and score, 3 tackles for loss. It's just James Pierce. He has that kind of ability. I think Harold Perkins at LSU has always had that kind of ability. And for whatever reason, we didn't get to see it last year. That doesn't mean he's lost that capability. They got a new defensive staff down there. How will they use him? There are a lot of questions with LSU this year, a lot of questions on their defense. He's not one. He's an answer. He's the opposite of a question. Use him as much as you possibly can. He should be a game wrecker. LSU, Jesse, what's their over-under? It's 9.5, right? So LSU is expected to be in that 9.5 range. We got a bold prediction later on the show tonight from someone who doesn't think LSU will finish above 500. He is the difference in those kinds of games. Everyone's going to focus on the quarterback position. They should. Everyone's going to focus on them replenishing at wide receiver. Great offensive line, or should be down there. Will the running game be able to carry the mail for him? But absent all that, Harold Perkins should be a game wrecker defensively. Should have been last year. Should be again this year. Abdul Carter at Penn State, edge player there. They just lost a key guy to injury over the past couple of weeks. And so very unclear, whether he'll be back in time for the season remains to be seen on that. But Abdul Carter, if he and Danny Dennis Sutton, for example, if they provide an elite pass rush, then it helps that secondary. A secondary they're confident in, but still a lot of new pieces there. So it helps the secondary. But also, Penn State this year, hey, it'd be great if you get a new OCN and Drew Aller in year 2 just turns the corner and they're scoring several points per game and more than they did last year. And the explosivity rate's way up. But if it's a work in progress, it sure would help to have a cat like this be changing games with non-offensive scoring. That sure would help. Ruben Bain, I think, possesses that ability down at Miami. Defensive end entering year 2, no doubter, as long as he's healthy. Tied for the team lead in sacks as a true freshman. I think you can expect fairly consistent across the board sort of elevation of production for Miami defensively anyway. If that's the case, again, same way we talked about it with Pierce. There's a big difference in being able to turn guys like that loose because offenses can't afford to key on one of them. And so, if you've got that kind of situation with Ruben Bain, really even if you do have it, he's still trouble. But if you have a situation where the rest of your guys around him respond, total game wrecker. And then I mentioned Caleb Downs earlier in the show only because when we're talking about defensive players, I can't talk about game changers and not talk about this guy. Was at Bama last year, at Ohio State this year. I don't really know what else we can say about him that we haven't already said. I think he could enter the NFL draft right now and be taken fairly high, and especially after this year, even though he still has 2 years left in college. So, yeah, those are some of the defensive players that I would look at. I'm not quite ready to say, defensive Heisman or anything like that, which, by the way, is an award that I've always thought we should have. I know we have best defensive player in the country. I've always thought with the way the Heisman is voted on, should just have an offensive and defensive Heisman, but who listens to me?